Says you're live, so.
At the mic.
It was a smart
Okay.
one.
All right, so you're gonna go to.
Although the triangle is still.
All right, I'm gonna miss.
I only saw high level.
It's time to just.
Yeah.
I'm sure the triangle was in there.
Oh. Okay. All right, let's move this. All right, all, we're gonna get this party started. If you have not signed in yet to our attendance sheet, please do so on the sign table. Thank you to those who have. This is going to be our final meeting of 2024. I will reiterate this at the end of the meeting, but we are not meeting, no public meetings are held in January. So we will reconvene in February. Okay, let's go on ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes. Okay, awesome. Okay, I feel like, here we go, thank you. Thank you. All right. What first felt, what we thought was gonna be a little sleepy meeting, all of a sudden we've got some action. So this is good. Okay, well, thank you for braving the cold and the in-between holiday hangover that I'm sure some people are still experiencing. But you know, we appreciate well-attended meetings, and this is another good example, better than what we anticipated. My name is Andrew Bernier. I'm your Pleasant Community Council President, and we are just gonna get on through this meeting, making sure that we touch on, we are gonna be a little light on our councils, our committees. A lot of them were not able to make it, so we'll do brief updates on that end. But we do have a number of special guests that we want to make sure that we provide time to, and a couple of updates as well. But as we do, we're going to go through our city department reports. We will start with Officer Martin and the Cincinnati Police Department.
Hello. As far as the crime stats, we are actually looking pretty good. The Kia and Hyundai issue has increased again, but that's not any fault of our own. And then the one thing that I am really concerned about, I just would like for people to stop leaving their spare key in their cars, because that is like happening quite often, and people are wondering why their cars are being stolen. So just try not to leave your spare key in the car. So let's not do that. And put purses and credit cards and wallets on the seat. Let's not do that, because that's happening again as well. And it's Christmas, so people like to take things that don't belong to them and give them away as if they want them. So let's not do that. Other than that, I don't have anything. We're looking good. I don't have anything. So if you guys don't have any questions for me, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And I guess I'll see you guys in February.
That's great.
All right, thank you, Officer Martin. Hope you have a wonderful holiday. Do we have fire representatives here? Okay, next up, the Pleasant Ridge Recreation Center. Kendall, go on ahead.
All right, how's everyone doing today?
Good.
Good. So my name is Kendall Bobo. I'm one of the community center directors here at Pleasant Ridge Recreation Center. All right, so first thing first that we have coming up, our Parents' Night Out event. So that'll be December 6th and the 20th from 6 p.m. to 8:45. The fee is $25 per day. So if you need to get Christmas shopping done, or you just want to go out, have fun, whatever, we'll take care of your kids for those days. Also, we have our I'm dreaming of I'm dreaming of a Pleasant Ridge holiday. So that's our Schools Out mini camp. That'll be December 23rd. That'll be our ugly Christmas sweater party. Then December 26th, we have our Polar Express. So the kids bring their PJs. We'll watch Polar Express movie. And then December 27th, The Grinch versus Santa Claus. So we're gonna set up a obstacle course in the gym, and it'll be our like a Candyland obstacle course, and the kids will dress up as Santa Claus or the Grinch. So I might dress up as the Grinch and have fun with that. So yes, then also for December 30th, we have our Winter Wonderland. January 2nd, we have our New Year dance party, and then January 3rd, our Wacky Tacky Day. And that will go from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and the fee is $45 per day. And then last but not least, we have our toy drive. That'll be December 14th at Coreyville Rec Center from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So just bring in some toys here to Pleasant Ridge, unwrapped toys, so we can donate them to the center. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kendall. The Pleasant Ridge Branch Library, Jennifer.
Hello, I'm Jennifer. I manage the Pleasant Ridge Branch Library just up the street. I just wanted to share about a couple of things that we have going on in December and January. This month we are collecting personal hygiene products for the Caring Place. They have limited hours. They're only Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you'd like to donate any kind of personal hygiene or personal care items, just bring them in. We've got a box inside the front door. You can give them a staff, and I'm making regular drop-offs to Sharifa and her crew at the Caring Place, which is just at the Presbyterian Church here. Tomorrow night, we are having a Heritage Foods and Herbs. It's a local history program with Carol Mundy. There will be snacks that she is making from ingredients that would have been available in this part of Ohio in around the year 1800. She's a fascinating presenter. It is all ages, but younger kids might find it boring. It's probably better for older kids and adults. And then in January, I do have calendars over there. On January 11th, this is more for the littles. We're having Busy Town. We're taking a lot of our imagination stations that we have up throughout the year, taco stand, restaurant, ice cream shop, construction site, and our meeting room, which is massive downstairs, is just going to be filled with all of this stuff all day long. Bring your kids, bring your grandkids, and just let them play. Be a fun, like, cold winter day activity. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. So all right, let's bludgeon on through this. Okay. So,
Wow.
it's funny. I feel like, we've been like at work, in the background. We have been trying to keep up with a lot of really good opportunities that I feel like we've been learning about quite a bit on the fly. Along with a lot of our pre-existing programs. So I'm going to touch upon a few. Jeff has some, and then we got a lot of updates as far as like Luminaria and other finances. And we do have a vote tonight that we actually I'll start with that tonight. So I want to give a little precursor. So all right, in a bit we've talked about our TIF funds quite a bit. TIF standing what?
Tax increment financing.
Tax increment financing program. We talked about this as an opportunity. It's an investment fund. I'm going to leave Jeff to talk about this, but basically it's a pool of money, not a physical pool, a metaphorical bank account. Well, the bank account exists. The pool itself doesn't exist. Anyway, I've bludgeoned that. So we've been meeting collectively with the Development Corporation and the Business Association about activating some of these funds. We met with representatives from the city who then enlightened us about another program, which the city is hosting. It's called the Neighborhood Catalytic Capital Improvement Program. This program awards up to $100,000 to whatever entity, in our case, the community council, to identify areas of potential blight or some sort of economic redevelopment. And so we, in conversation with the state representatives, along with the Development Corporation and the Business Association, were able to articulate a grant request to ask for $75,000 totally to launch our new neighborhood community plan. Yes, I'm missing a word in there. Basically, it's the plan that most neighborhoods have on the website, on the city website. Usually they are updated every 10 years. We're trying to get ours a little earlier, because if anyone were to go to our current community plan, our neighborhood plan, it's quite dated, it's pre-pandemic, and it speaks to a level of demographic which isn't entirely accurate anymore. And also is heavily focused on development of the triangle in Pleasant Ridge, whereas we know that we're having other parts of our neighborhood getting some revitalization focus. So anyway, we each of the Pleasant Ridge three-legged stool, if you will, the Development Corporation, the association, us, put up $2,000 initially to support the initial funding of a possible new neighborhood plan. This would be done by Yard & Company, Yard & Co. They are a local design firm, and they have actually done the designs for business or for neighborhood plans for other neighborhoods in the city. Basically, they had a price tag that was floating anywhere between $60,000 and $75,000 to $80,000. Each neighborhood or each entity is putting forward two. Tonight, we actually are going to ask for you all to approve one more $1,000 in increase. So we want to put forth $3,000 of potential funds. We on the executive council are limited to two by our own vote. Anything more than that requires a public vote. Each entity wants to give $3,000 total, so we need to ask for a vote from you. But we have considered this quite a bit as a deeply needed initiative on our end to propose to the city to activate these funds. So if we can get the extra $1,000 tonight, we can forward that to the city, and then the city can then say, hey, the community council along with the other entities have skin in the game, and that'll look more favorably for our application for $75,000 to fund a brand new neighborhood plan. And honestly, every time that we've engaged other city offices, they more than half the time have said, well, what is in your plan? And our plan right now is not conducive to where the neighborhood is going currently. So anyway, the hope is say yes to $1,000. Hopefully that activates $75,000. So we're going to open that to a vote as our last item later on. Okay. If we have questions before the vote, I'm happy to answer those. A couple of the things on my end. So I've been kind of on the periphery with our Ridge Road team, engaged with the Department of Transportation. I'll let Barb speak more to that and updates there. I will be meeting with the police chief next week, along with Brandon, our chair of safety, who will be giving updates as far as some of the reshifting of personnel that have happened in the city, and just some of the new approaches of how they want to engage with the communities. I want to put this on everyone's radar. This was just announced by the intermediary entity, Invest in Neighborhoods. They're the organization that kind of serves as the middle boundary between the city and the neighborhood community councils. But this is open to everyone. I've been to 3 of these so far, and I think they are wonderful events. This is the 2025 Neighborhood Summit. It is taking place on Saturday, March 29th. It is happening at the Tangeman University Center, TUC, which is at the University of Cincinnati. It is typically an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 event with food served. But this is a really good event that has a really diverse collective of presentations from city officials, from civic organization, activation, community folks, and along with city officials, neighborhood folks. There's a lot of good networking and a lot of good Cincinnati on the ground specific means of sharing ideas and best practices to help keep neighborhood growth local and strong. I'm going to be going to it. I think it's a really good use of time to meet other like-minded folks across the city who are trying to do good things for their respective neighborhoods. Again, that is Saturday, March 29th at the University of Cincinnati. Okay. And let's see, another one is Acon, which has been our favorite problem child street. Down the way, the complaint against the industrial site landscaping has been continuing, but the city is supposed to be sending out representatives soon to see if there is a zoning violation down there. Basically, the neighbors that are down the loop of Ashwood, I got it right? I never get it right. Excellent. Basically, we have neighbors that have their back properties have been abutted against what could be illegal use of whatever zoning that might be down there. So hopefully, we're trying to help those neighbors get a resolution sooner rather than later. This has been something that's been over 2 decades long for them. Okay, and then I will hold a couple other things to committee-specific work. I think that's my big stuff for right now. Okay, thanks, Jeff, you're up.
I am Jeff Hinton Mason. I am the Vice President of the Community Council. I've got quite a few updates actually to share with you guys tonight, but I'm going to try to go fast and I'll look up for confused faces or hands to answer questions. Does that sound good?
Yes.
All right, so the first thing I wanted to talk about was to give some clarity around this TIF fund thing that we're talking about. I know a lot of you, if you miss a meeting that's 2 whole months, there's a lot of gaps to fill, so we're going to kind of give reminders and beat the same drum. Tax increment financing, essentially, there's a district that is created, essentially, I believe, by the city of Cincinnati, but either way, we have one or have developed one within the last 2 to 3 years. And what it is the property taxes for all of the properties within that district don't go to Hamilton County. They actually get collected into a pool. That's when we say TIF funds, and he says pool. That's what we're talking about. So there is a bit of money, an account of money that has to be used within our TIF district. So it's generally going to be like a business oriented thing. So it's mostly surrounding our whole business district. And what we can do is, well, there's a lot of things that we can do, but what we're trying to do, our goal is between the Development Corporation, Business Association, and the Community Council, is to ensure that we're steering the direction of those funds so that we don't just have a random developer approach the city without anybody ever knowing and ask for X amount of money. The city likes the idea. They come and talk to us. We don't like it. They give them the money anyway. That's what we're trying to prevent. But is that a good, simple way to put it? Cool. So we're trying to be proactive about developing a plan that really steers the way the money goes. And what we want to do is we want to do a couple of different things. We want to do short-term and long-term now and bigger picture. And so there's some outstanding infrastructure things that we want to do. We're trying to get them to add some stuff to the Ridge repaving project, among some other things, because if it's entering the business district or the TIF district, there's a good case to be made that needs to be people need to be safe to be able to go there and spend money there. They need places to park. There needs to not be buildings that are falling apart, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all different ways that we can actually request funds. So there's some things that we want to accomplish now, but if we allow it to actually develop a history, we actually grow a bond capacity or develop a bond capacity after a certain amount of years. They go, okay, they're getting at least this much every year out of the property taxes off of those properties. They can now leverage a bond and do something big. And we can work with the developer and say, hey, you can build your project here, but we need a parking garage. Here's some money that we have from our bond capacity to build a parking garage. As an example, that's not specifically something that we have any plans of doing here. Any questions about that? Everybody kind of wrap their heads around it? Cool. So that's kind of our goal and what we're trying to do with that. We have approached Yard & Co. The initial, which would be $3,000 if we approve for $1,000 tonight, will give us the first, essentially it will cover what would be their phase 1, which is kind of a retreat style multi-hour meeting with questions from what they call the stakeholders, which would be what I'm calling the TIF Fund Task Force, which is people from Development Corporation, Business Association, and PRCC. And then as we move into phases, they're actually going to do surveys of the community. They're going to go door to door. They're going to meet you in the business district to ask you questions face to face and say, hey, what do you want here? So it's a pretty intense process, and that's why we think we have a really good chance with the city to potentially get these fundings. The funds that he had discussed, and we will know by the end of the month whether or not we actually are approved for that grant. Any other questions about TIF funds before I move on? I'm speaking Spanish to some of you. Okay, so Jason Shamley, the president of the PRDC, which is Pleasant Ridge Development Corporation, also a volunteer nonprofit here in Pleasant Ridge, was going to be sharing himself today in person, but wasn't able to come because he had to leave town for work. But he sent me an update that I can give you. So Pleasant Ridge Development Corporation currently holds the old Burger King, the old theater, and they're right now in process of acquiring the corner property that is 6100 Montgomery. Empty property, used to be a jewelry store, etc. That should be going before City Council either this week or next week, and hopefully by the end of the month they'll be able to close on that property, meaning that they would be able to hold that, and in the meantime we could do something with it and before a developer actually can give us a plan for what they want to do. And there's some other parts to that deal they need to go through. It's been a long, drawn-out process, but they're getting very close. And after the start of the new year, once that goes through, the plan is to work together to, at the same time, get both that building and the Burger King demolished, so that we can actually start to make it attractive to developers for something that is actually a benefit and not a blight to our community. Because this is his word for word, since we're an urban design overlay, there are tight restrictions on the demolition, and we will automatically have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals to get approval. Community engagement and support, part we can play here, demonstrating the redevelopment of these properties as a part of the existing community plans, and showing what new development plans might be would be key to getting the approval for the demolition. So the funds are there. We won those funds from the county earlier this year, but now we need to actually give good proof in those three areas to actually make it happen. And then a potential interim activation plan for the corner property could be another short-term pocket park, which could open some doors for other things, including Dora and all kinds of sort of things that could be cool for our community long-term. That, with the way things work, that could end up being not just short-term as well, which would be more than happy. If anybody has questions for the Pleasant Ridge Development Corporation, my son is being babysat by the iPad right here, and he's laughing. If you have any questions, I can provide Jason's direct email, and you can. He said he's open to anybody's questions about anything considering the development corporations. Again, I'll tell you what properties they own. They do own a parking lot behind the apartment complex, directly across from the parking lot of Gaslight. But the old Burger King, the old theater, and they're acquiring 6100, working on acquiring 6100 Montgomery. So that's their purview, but what they do is try to activate those blighted properties through a lot of different programs that the state and county and city provide in order to actually see those handed over to a developer who wants to do something that's good for our community, not just good for their own pockets. That make sense? Go ahead.
When you say like hand it over to a developer, is part of our plan being like, we'd like to see like a grocery store, or like, or is it just like, oh no, somebody wants to do this here, like?
Yeah, so the development corporation does a bit of that, but that's also part of what we're doing with being involved in the TIF situation, and with the new plan is to go, hey, we're not trying to get another wannabe OTR. We actually want amenities. We would like a dry cleaner to come back. Andrew, President Andrew, as I call him, because that's his role. He likes to joke like, Pleasant Ridge is a great place to get a drink and a haircut. There are hair places and places to buy a beverage all through our business district, but there's not a lot on top of that. We do have the comic book store and the record store that people come here for, but the people who live here, we would love some additional amenities. So that's part of our goals with that. Any other questions about that? Okay, I hope I did Jason proud. Town properties development that is on Lester and Montgomery. I received some questions about that. The timeline for rentals is still this coming summer for leasing out the apartments. If you don't know, there's 82 apartments, 55 of which are one bedroom, and the other 17 are two bedroom, two bath. So it's going to bring in a lot of people are going to be coming into a very small piece of property, which means we can support more business development and whatnot. There are not currently any retail contracts secured for the two retail spots. Josh Rothstein wanted me to be very clear. He is open to talking to anyone about those spots. All right. So I've got two more, one of which I will mostly defer to Principal Donner, who's here from Woodford Academy. I shared a bit of what was being talked about at the school board about some changes to the district lining and potential changes to Woodford Academy. Most people moved to Pleasant Ridge with the hopes of sending their child to Pleasant Ridge Montessori. I did that. It didn't work out. So my son is now a proud Wildcat at Woodford Academy, and we're loving it. But there's potential changes being proposed there, but I will let her go into that in more detail that she has. And then Douglas Terrace closure, we reported last community council that we wrote in favor in solidarity with previous community council boards and with a great amount of petition signers to ask the city to take what has been a very long-term, not permanent, but kind of permanent closure of Douglas Terrace at Montgomery and actually make it permanent. To which we have gone back and forth with Councilman Mark Jeffrey's office. We've gone back and forth with the Department of Community and Economic Development, which is who we engage for TIF funds. And the two of them are now talking, and that's where it stands. We did in our approval letter say we are willing to put forth TIF funds to fund it if the Department of Transportation does not have the funds, which is what has been the case for the last 5 years and why it's not been permanent yet. Any questions about that?
When you say make it permanent, do you mean make it more attractive than what it is currently?
Correct. They would actually build it out. So the sidewalk would go all the way across. It would be a full closure. They did remove signals and stop signs, and there's concrete barriers there, but it is quite the eyesore. And as you're coming into Pleasant Ridge and into our TIF district, our business district, we would prefer that it's one, that a dangerous intersection isn't what leads to it, and two, that a blighted, very temporary situation doesn't exist there. Any other questions? All right, that covers it for me.
Just quick note, our secretary, Michelle, she had a passing in the family, so she was unable to attend today. So we send her and her family's best thoughts and well wishes. But she didn't provide any other major updates outside of just getting our agenda ready for today. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessie Frank. I'm PRCC's treasurer. So if you were here with us last meeting, we did a vote on updating our bylaws to expand our non-discrimination policy. The reason we did that is because we need to remain eligible for funding from the city for next year. And one of those things is we need to expand our non-discrimination policy. So if you were here last month, we voted on that and approved it. I got that document submitted to the city and they have confirmed receipt of it. So we will remain eligible for funding next year, which is great. And if you're looking for those updated bylaws, they're always on our website. We have the new version up there at pleasantridge.org. So feel free to check that out whenever. And in terms of the funding, the reason for the bylaw update, the biggest grant fund that we get is called NSP. Like Andrew was saying, Invest in Neighborhoods, that organization between the city and us. One of the things that we get from them is resources and funding, particularly an NSP grant. This year it was $7,400, so a solid amount of money that goes towards our community for cleanups and a lot of other initiatives that we're working on. So for this year, like I said, $7,400, we got that and it's spent, so that's complete for the year. But we don't have the number for next year yet on what potentially is out there that we could receive. So usually they'd have that by now. It's not up on the website yet, so I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but by February when we come back, we'll have that number. And then if you haven't been here for NSP, we talk about the projects we want to submit to be reimbursed towards the money. We get a public vote, so everybody here is involved. So please be with us February, March next year, and we'll talk about how to use however many funds we get. It fluctuates, but hoping for a big number this year or next year. All right, so that's 2025. But we do still have one more initiative going for 2024. If you haven't heard of it yet, let me be the first to tell you about our Luminaria event coming on. It is Saturday, December 14th. So not this weekend, but the following weekend. So 14th, same day as Shop Hop. So stick in town and shop around Shop Hop. But in the evening is our Luminaria. We have kits all over and people light up. It's a beautiful evening to walk. I did look, it's 46 degrees and sunny that day. So beautiful weather coming. It is a program that we get, it is our last fundraiser of the year. So it helps us get money for next year towards those beautification initiatives, safety, transportation. So if you haven't gotten your kit yet, no fears. It is open on pleasantridge.org website on the Luminaria page. So you can go on there, pay with credit card online. It's $20 per kit. You get 12 lanterns, candles, etc. So it fills the house, but feel free to get 2 just to make sure you have enough. And if you don't want to go on the website, I have a credit card reader here tonight. So we can get you all taken care of. Don't even worry about going online. Come see me afterwards and we can get you set up. But we already have over 120 kits sold. So there's going to be lights all over the community. But if you're not one of those 120 yet, join us. We're so excited. It's a beautiful night in Pleasant Ridge. So please let me know if you'd like to get one and help support Pleasant Ridge for next year. That's it for me.
Woo woo. All right. It's great. Okay. So let's get into our special guests. Principal Donna, if you could lead us off at the microphone.
Oh, I have to come up.
You should do.
So the people online can
Do you know the thousands that have tuned in?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. This is recorded.
Minus the thousands.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm Caitlin Donner. Speaking of Mr. Jameson out there,
He asked me to do my
dance moves today. He got to see my dance moves this morning. Right away. Yeah, he told me to stop. He said I was not good. Hi everyone. Thank you for having me. I really do intend to try to come to these more regularly because we do have a number of families that attend Woodford Academy that go to our school, and so keeping you updated just on the school. So I'm going to start with some good news. So we just got our 3rd grade state test scores back, and so that's our fall test. So basically 3rd graders take the fall reading test, and it tells us our kids performing on grade level at 3rd grade if that was the state test in the fall, right? So a lot of kids will do well in the spring, but might not perform on the fall, but it helps just give us data for the year. So I'm excited that 1/3 of our kids are already where they need to be in 3rd grade or above, which is really exciting. And we're on target looking at our data to reach our goal of 70% being proficient or higher by the end of the year, which is huge growth from last year. So that is exciting news. Yes, I know, right? I had to bring something exciting. I was also asked to come talk about the district's growth plan. Quite honestly, I have probably just as many questions as you all have and little to no answers. So I'll just quickly update you kind of on where they're at. So the board's been meeting regularly. They had a meeting, is today Tuesday? Oh man.
Yesterday.
Okay, they met yesterday, just to have a conversation around the plan. If any of you have paid attention to the board meetings, or it's all over the news as well, you can kind of find information about it. There's been multiple proposals to Woodford, so honestly, I'm not clear on which direction they're going to go. The thing I can definitively share is that on Monday, December 9th, the board has said that they will potentially, they say potentially, but so hopefully they will vote Monday, December 9th on the plan of redistribution. And that involves not only Woodford, but many, many other schools. So the meeting's at 5:30. They will do hearing of the public. So if it's open to community members, they've expressed that they want to hear from community members. So their emails are on the website. They definitely are looking at emails from the board, but I really just want to take questions.
So the current, well, one of the current proposals is that Woodford would essentially become a Montessori middle school. Is that?
Yeah, so, and I can run through all the scenarios, but there's many. But so one of them is that the 7th and 8th graders at Clark would move to Woodford Academy, thus moving all of the elementary kids out of that building. One of the questions that I do have, which actually was new information to me that I did not know, in one of the presentations, they shared our school map of where our school kids come from, like where across the city do they come from. And I actually didn't know that our number one neighborhood is Pleasant Ridge. We have about 85 families that their house, like their address of residency, their neighborhood school would be Pleasant Ridge. So I don't know then, would those kids go back to Pleasant Ridge Montessori? That's equally where I have some confusion. So that was proposal number one. The other, which I think if anyone has any, does anyone have kids at Clark? No, okay. The Clark LSTMC is not necessarily in favor of that plan, pretty vocally. The other thought was they would move just 7th graders, keep our kindergarten and 5th graders, kindergarten through 1st grade through 6th. See, there's so many plans, I'm getting confused. Our 1st through 6th graders there at Woodford, but then they would essentially phase them out. Then there was a proposal, our LSTMC, Woodford's LSTMC brought up the suggestion of using Bramble if a building is needing, and then the preschoolers there could be absorbed to other elementaries. So I don't really know the plan. That's, yes.
I'm less connected to this. What is the overall problem that they're trying to solve? What's the impetus to be coming up with plans?
I know, I'm like, the recording's on. No, I think, so, again, it's being shared that it's underutilization and there's this new House bill coming out. When I look at the House bill though, that's going, or I don't know if it's a House bill, Senate bill, it talks about that schools can be overtaken by the state if they're both underperforming or underutilized. But like, what does underperforming and underutilized mean, right? So like, is underutilization that every space in the building is used? Or is it that classes are full? What does underutilization even mean? So that part is not clear, but it's being shared. It's a budget issue and an underutilization issue.
And is it starting with Woodford and then it's rippling, or there's multiple schools and it's a larger plan?
So
Woodford is a part of it.
last year in like July, they made the decision to move Riverview or Spencer Elementary, move the whole building into the Riverview building with Riverview for just a year. And then next year, Riverview is gonna potentially phase out. Then, what other move did they make? There was another one. I know, this started in July. I think the current plan for next school year would impact like 30 or 40 schools.
Okay.
So it's pretty significant, large.
Thank you.
What's the time frame for implementing these changes?
It is being tried to be implemented next year. Yeah, so that's where they're going back and forth, like, should it be a phased approach? What is the right, because 40 is a lot in 1 year.
And is also some of the changes to address the deficit that I hear on the news, they owe the state or something?
Man, you guys are asking hard questions. He knows that answer.
I do. So ESSER funding, and I forget the actual acronym.
Oh, the cliff, the
fiscal
ESSER cliff. Yeah.
Basically, funds that were allocated by the federal government to respective school districts were only for X amount of years. That expired earlier, a few months ago. And so, whereas the district enjoyed a generous amount of federal dollars, that's gone, and now that has created a deficit. And so the deficit is basically arising from, they made a lot of staff cuts over the last year, which a lot were painful. I had friends that lost their jobs in the district. And now it's looking at such as schools that are barely being right-sized and are already getting squeezed, such as Pleasant Ridge Montessori, even with the addition, to schools that are not at capacity. You know, we have Silverton Academy, and then there's what's at Woodford and other schools as well. So let alone the threat of schools' assets being taken over by the state, but basically trying to better allocate funding and resources so that the district is able to better configure where they can actually, what funds they can do to better streamline, to be more efficient, to try to make up the remaining deficit that's still to go. Because I think they've cut a lot, at least at the administrative level. A lot of school support staff has been cut. Now it's just trying to better streamline resources across the district, and it has to come down to what schools will be open, what schools might be closed, and trying to get schools at capacity essentially, and doing so in a thoughtful way. Especially while they're trying to maintain a lot of the pedagogical support, such as Montessori, along the theme schools, and then the pathways to the secondary programs as well. So they're trying to do this dance, but I think they know that they can't keep what is currently. So something has to change, but every one of those options is going to get probably some significant pushback by the communities that are going to be impacted. So they're,
I don't have children, but I'm a product of public education. And what concerns me is, based on the reference to that legislation, to me, it sounded like it's the goal, the long-range goal that we, the public, aren't aware of, is in support of vouchers, which to me is detrimental.
Yeah. So the current law is the utilization rate is 60. Like that's the kind of threshold. So they're talking about potentially changing if they haven't shared. Actually, the meeting was tonight. They haven't shared what the change would be, right? So they're talking about changing this legislation, but they haven't said what they're changing it to. I can share Woodford is above 60. I think something that I'll share too that our LSTMC raised a concern about is the utilization rate is difficult when you talk about schools that have specialized populations, because if this is a classroom, right? We count this as a classroom. We would say that this classroom can hold 30 kids. Well, if we're dealing with an autism unit, we don't have rooms this big, of course, but you get what I'm saying. Those rooms can only legally have 6 kids in them. And so at Woodford, we offer pre-K all the way up to 6 for autism units. So the kids come to us from pre-K and stay to us, which is really cool because then they don't have to go to different elementary schools. It hurts buildings that have autism units with this utilization rate, the way we're using it. But I think it's also the way the state is interpreting it, right? So the state is saying, we're using this, but they're not thinking, well, this building is being used because they have units that can only have a certain number of kids. Any other questions? I'm sorry, I don't have more answers.
we are actually going to have to leave it there.
Oh, that's
We
fine.
gotta move on.
Perfect. That, I would love that.
All right. All right. This is going to have pretty massive ramifications for our neighborhood, let alone the students or families that are being served over at Woodford. But this might also greatly alter the trajectory of students potentially leaving Pleasant Ridge and what that pathway might look like. So in the immediate, it might not have impact Pleasant Ridge, Montessori, but as far as what might happen as far as the middle ground or what might happen then afterwards as far as options. So, I have a 2-year-old and 4-year-old, and so, this is something that we're following closely. Okay. We do have, is TJ Kell in the house?
Yep.
All right.
That's gonna be a tough act to follow.
I budgeted 10 minutes, but.
I should need less than that.
Okay.
So, hello everyone, my name is TJ Kell. I'm a Cincinnatian since 2008, Pleasant Ridge inhabitant since 2018. For the last 4 months, I'd say, I've been doing some due diligence on the movie theater property. Why? So one of the first groups I got involved with in Cincinnati was the Brewery District down over the Rhine. I just fell in love with the culture of Cincinnati and its rich beer brewing heritage, and I fell in love with historic preservation. So for me, that's kind of where it started. I was very blessed to have a 15+ year career with GE Aerospace, and on that journey, I served on a board with a community service fund that serves 100 agencies that GE employees choose involved in the community. Sharifa and Caring Place is one of those. There's a number of others as well. And I was on that board for about 10 years and enjoyed the development work, kind of fiduciary responsibility, the investment, and serving the local community during that time. And about 3 years ago, I changed employers and I work for Amazon. I'm a sales executive, and through COVID transitioned to a career where I work from home. So while I love the work that I do in aerospace and serving the defense industrial base, I do travel, but most of the time I'm here and I'm walking through the community. My wife is here as well, Allie, who works for Kroger. We have 2 young daughters, 6 and 2. Our kindergartner goes to Nativity, and I've found that while the work I do I enjoy truly, I've been seeking another project to get involved in the community I live in, and kind of fell in love with this building a little bit. So really, the goal is to try to restore the movie theater to its heritage with what I think are solving a few problems that I've heard that the community has. So the concept is really a business called Spirits and Flow. It's intended to be a 1960s historic preservation with on-demand movie theaters, an arcade, and a boutique liquor store. So why? How does that all come together? It's a 7,000 square foot building. It's very large. There isn't really, in my opinion, a location or development place of business here in Pleasant Ridge that can serve very large groups. I had done some due diligence on some buildings in Over the Rhine previously because, living rooms are small there. It's hard to bring people together to see a game or to watch a movie when you get into the 10, 20, 30 person size businesses. But by being true to the story, found the old newspaper clippings of the movie theater itself. There's a lot of space there. And there's quite frankly a lot of new technology to provide sound systems, streaming capability that people are used to at their homes that don't exist in this way and in this capacity. And there's a lot of space to have, fun things for families to do, activities, games, etc. And I also grew up going to arcades. So I think from my perspective, it's personal to me. I've been very fortunate and thankful to have met Jason Chamley early on in the process, obviously. So I'm working very closely with him and the PRDC. He's introduced me to a lot of folks. I've been in contact with some developers that specialize in urban development that are also willing to invest in the property with me and kind of very long-term oriented around what I would like to do. But my intention is twofold. I don't intend to own and operate this business alone. I'm looking for a team and people to collaborate with. As my wife will remind me, I have a day job and family and things that I need to be around for. So I do believe, based on my almost 20 years in Cincinnati, that I know a lot of the right people. I've been involved in places like MadTree and Rheingeist and Nation and a lot of these places from the very beginning with the people that bought and developed those buildings. And I think that many of those parties are interested in this community. So I think that that's something that I would like to be involved with. I think additionally, I have no interest in competing. My intention is to create a space that brings more people here, that serves the community here. But for example, I love the Pleasant Ridge food scene. I want carry-in to be a thing. I love the idea of the Dora. So those are things that I want to be a part of helping create awareness of, that create economic opportunity for our community and to provide good jobs here and to provide a safe space for kids to go and for families to spend time. So that's what I'm doing on the weekends and in the evenings and kind of putting a plan together. But I just wanted to share my thoughts and get any feedback from each of you. I've canvassed some of our families and communities at Nativity. We're members at La Santaville as well. And I mentioned some of the other groups I've been working with. I have talked to some of the other, business owners in the community. I know some of the challenges with that specific building. I know there's been about 5 groups through it. And there's some parking challenges. I have some interesting ideas based on easements that happen in OTR that I think we could leverage, and some other kind of creative ideas as well around Tesla chargers and things like that, that might allow us to work closely with some of the other business owners nearby at Pleasant Ridge Chili and around the area. So anyway, thanks for the time, thanks for listening, and I'd love, any comments, concerns, or questions that you have.
My grandson would love your kids. I hope you're thinking kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the ways this started was, as a remote employee, sometimes you go to cafes, and we've got 3 schools right here, and after 3, like, they just flood the coffee shops, right? They got nothing to do. So that's part of, this and my own, personal experience as a kid. Is kind of where a lot of it came from. Thank you. Yeah.
May I ask where the building is located?
Yeah, this is at 6042 Montgomery. So it's right next to Pleasant Ridge Chili. It's across from the new coffee exchange. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else? Okay.
So do you own the building, or you're looking to buy the building, or
Yeah, so-
where are you in this process?
PRDC owns the building.
Okay.
So I would be needing to, get a certain level of capital funds as well as some paperwork together to take ownership of the building with them. A part of that process is having, a developer who's committed to the project as well. And I'm in contact with the developer. I've received, initial quotes and such. But there's a lot of work to do. It's definitely a phased project. If phase 1 is restoring the curbside and painting, I want to do a lot of what OTR has done well. I'd love to get artworks involved. I'd like to make this a beautiful building. We've actually had some graffiti artists, I think, show up recently too, so I'd love to enlist them as well. The Big Lebowski, if you guys have seen on the side. So that's part of it. But because of the structural needs, because of the roofing, because of some of the challenges, it would be a multi-year project. But phase 5 into the future, I would love to see meaningful, usable parking space. Like I said, potentially with Tesla chargers. I do drive a Tesla, sorry, I can't do myself. But a patio, potentially some rooftop space. Some of the things that we've seen occur in other communities that have made, central local gathering places that can serve large groups. I think Pleasant Ridge has so many amazing places, but if you have a group over 12 or, 2 or 3 families with kids, it's very, very difficult. So that's part of the problem I'm trying to solve.
Just a quick question, would it be like you have to reserve in paper space, or is there also space for people to just be like, plaza, park, where you don't?
Yeah, no, it would be open and free flowing. The only pay for it part was really this idea of how do you bring a movie theater back that's more flexible?
Yeah.
And if you've gone to Tokyo Kitty or Another 9 or some of these places, the idea is you have a space that's available to do a thing. In this case, if you watch a movie or a sport, and you can reserve that for a block of time for a large group or a group of a few sizes. But it's a 7,000 square foot building, but there's a lot of space to play and have fun. And there is a mezzanine. There's a second floor actually, so the arcade would actually be a separate area. And we've talked a lot, at least my wife has talked about a lot with me, is like, if you're gonna do this, it's gotta be safe, right? If you're gonna have kids around, if you're gonna have alcohol around, you gotta do it the right way. There's only a few places in Cincinnati, Arcade Legacy in Springdale, and there's not a lot of places that do this, but you can see very clearly what they do to make sure that, all of their customers are able to be there to do what they're supposed to do and not what they're not supposed to do.
I'm going to call
Thank
it
you.
there. All right, awesome. Thank you, TJ.
Very cool, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Next up, Laura Atalaya.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a made-up last name, so.
that's cool. All right, this is an interesting emergence that is happening in our neighborhood, and I won't spoil, so Laura, go ahead.
Hey everybody, I'm Laura. I just moved here last month with my wife and my kid. I grew up in Cincinnati. I've been away for 17 years and we're back. And so a bunch of us in the neighborhood, actually about 50, we've come together and created a group. And the idea is solidarity with folks who are immigrants. And so to give a little bit of background, I am an immigration attorney and a social worker, and I do immigrant, especially non-citizens who have criminal convictions defense. And so, I know we're not political, but it's kind of hard to talk about immigration without talking about what's happening. I think a lot of us are afraid when we see promises of deportations of so many people who are part of our community and who we love and who contribute and who we live alongside. And so the idea here is so many of us who are citizens care about our immigrant neighbors and don't really know what to do and maybe don't have that many close connections with them. And so we're going to have a group that meets once a month. Our first date is going to be January 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. Maybe at, is it called UCC or United Church of Christ?
St. Peter's.
Okay, yes, I don't know what it's called. Somebody else is researching that right now. But the idea is that we do something each month. And so the first month, we're going to have me talk because my specialty is defending against deportation. And so, one second, this is my dog alarm. I'm going to talk about what happens if ICE shows up at your door or in your neighborhood or at your place of work. And what you can do, whether you are a citizen or a non-citizen, because realistically what happens a lot of time is ICE shows up and they take people away and their kids might be at school, there's nobody to pick them up, they don't have access to their bank accounts, and many of these folks are deported to countries where they haven't been for decades. And so as citizens, we can come together and we can say, even if we can't stop the deportation or the detention of this person, we can show up and say, let's make sure that your kids have somewhere safe to stay tonight so they don't end up in the foster care system. Let's make sure that you have access to your bank account so that if you end up with a bond, you can pay it. Let's make sure you have an attorney so that you're not fighting this on your own. And so the goal is to bring in experts from different nonprofits in the city. There are so many cool nonprofits that many of us who don't need their services don't know about. And so we'll bring them in and they'll talk about what they offer and educate those of us who are citizens and those of us who are non-citizens. We'll offer dinner. We'll also offer childcare. So that way, if you want to show up, if you're like, my Tuesday nights are bananas, guess what? You'll have childcare, you'll have dinner. And that means that there's a place for everybody. If you are a non-citizen and you have a lot of expertise in this, you can teach us. If you are a citizen and you want to learn, there's a place for you. If you're somebody who wants to help but doesn't have a lot of time, you can cook something to bring. If you're a kid, if you're like a junior high student or high school student, you want to offer childcare or come learn, you can do that. And so there's a lot of flexibility for what you want to offer and what you want to learn. The idea is solidarity. We're not charity. We're not saying, oh, poor immigrants, let's help them. We're saying we're all in this together. Let's help each other. If you're interested, I don't have anything, but you can come talk to me. Otherwise, we're working on some flyers that we're going to post around the neighborhood and also on the Facebook page. So thanks so much. If you have questions, I'm here to answer. Cool, thanks.
Thank you.
Laura, you have a active Facebook page, right?
I do, yeah.
All right, can you send that along to, we can do the email thing afterwards.
Yeah,
Okay,
sounds good.
awesome. All right, excellent, thank you. Set that. Okay, so the last special item we have is the actual community vote for allocating $1,000 from the community council budget to the application for the City of Cincinnati. I used to be mixed up. Weird. City of Cincinnati neighborhood catalytic
They can
capital.
pay.
I know, right? Sure, love to pay. All right. So formally, okay. The Pleasant Ridge Community Council Executive Board is requesting a public vote for allocating $1,000 from the community council budget toward the application of the Neighborhood Catalytic Capital Improvement Program on behalf of the council, the Pleasant Ridge Business Association, and the Pleasant Ridge Development Corporation for the request of $75,000 toward the study, development, and initial compiling of the new Pleasant Ridge neighborhood plan to then be proposed and adopted by the city. You ready for a vote, Cal?
I'm ready to
Okay,
stand.
here we go.
Just about ready to.
All right, here we go. For all in favor of allocating the $1,000, please raise your hand with an aye.
Just a second.
And you do need to be living in Pleasant Ridge for this vote.
Okay, got that.
Excellent.
Yes.
I didn't vote yes. Please vote
There you
no.
go. Sorry, you're right. I should not
I
have
was gonna
assumed
do
for
it
you.
this
Thank
time.
you for putting the hand up. Thank you.
All those opposed, please raise your hand with a nay. Any abstentions? All right, with the unanimous approval?
You can make sure everybody's voted, signed in.
Yes, and if you have voted, please make sure your name is on the paper. Okay. With that, we will notify the city and our respective partners in the Business Station Development Corporation to go ahead and assume another $1,000 when the council will be coming over. Thank you. This is a good lift for us. This is going to be a good look as well. All right, community council, community reports. We're going to be breezing through these. I will do my best to step in for those who are not here, starting with safety, block wash, Brandon, who's not able to make it. Last meeting, if you were here, we did have a resident who lives on a street right off of the former Barcode, now Duplex Coffee and Cocktails, about parking issues. Officer Martin followed up repeatedly and did drive-bys of the area with no follow-up from that resident, or response from the residents, I should say. So that's been kind of left to stand. As I mentioned earlier, I will be meeting with the chief of police next week with Brandon, just to get more insights about their community outreach. Pleasant Streets, however, next has a lot going on. I feel like I wrote 4 things down, but I'm gonna go straight to Barb, so you can tell us how you're keeping track of everything.
How are you?
Yeah, check. This is a health check-in, mental health for you.
I had my whole family here last week. I'm recuperating. One of our committee members calls it Rage Road, and that might sound kind of familiar to those of you used to riding or walking on that street. I walk the street a lot more than I drive it. I hate driving on Ridge Road. We've been talking for years about a Ridge Road repaving project, and it kept getting pushed back, and then we got the word that it was going to be this year. We asked a couple of questions through the year about when we would finally be meeting with the Department of Traffic Engineering, and they showed up in October, our first meeting in October, for those of you who were here, presented plans that had really changed very little since 2017. We had a committee of people work on a really beautiful plan, which I'm really glad I didn't share with the community, because you would have been so disappointed to see what DOTD came back with. But we had added a lot of safety features to what is essentially a repaving project. It remains kind of a repaving project with a little bit of safety enhancements built in, and we've been working with DOTD to try to make some changes and adapt it as best we can. We sent a message out to the community about helping us pick some design plans for the north part of Ridge, so between Montgomery and Amberley. I think those plans kind of confused a lot of people. We didn't get particularly helpful feedback, and a lot of the feedback actually did not work real well with the goals of our committee, which is to make Ridge Road safer for people. DOTE's plans were really good at improving things for cars. But that's not the problem we have on Ridge Road. Any of you who walk along there regularly know that you've got cars speeding by you that are about that far away from you. We have cars running off the road into houses. We've got traffic accidents happening at every major intersection regularly. And so we had a meeting with DOTE, a Zoom meeting in November, to kind of finalize or try to ask some questions about how we could make some changes. And we found out at that point that the chief engineer for the project, his last day in the office was Wednesday before Thanksgiving, before going on parental leave until March. So there was this rush to get everything done before the end of the year so they could start putting contracts in and get this off the ground. There was a rush to get this done, but it wasn't the safety project that we were hoping it would be. So we kind of pulled back a little bit. I think towards the end of that call, I even said, Ridge Road is in horrible shape, but at least the good part about it is that people drive more slowly because it's in such bad shape right now. And I think I speak for the community when I say we would rather put off getting this done next summer in order to get some of the safety things that we would really like to see that will help the community. So we are a bit in a holding pattern. I know DOTE is working on some of our suggestions for improving intersections, primarily Woodford and Ridge and Montgomery and Ridge. They have some questions about the ideas we've come up with there. We are also working with some of our committee members who, one of them is a traffic engineer for the Ohio Department of Traffic Engineering, and he's been bringing attention to grants that might be available to us through the state to do some more things. We've talked about using some TIF money to bolster some of the stuff that we want to do. So we are really in a holding pattern now. We're not sure what's going to happen. And I don't think we're going to know for a little while. But I wanted you to know that there's been a lot of work going behind the scenes. And I mean, our primary concern is making we're not gonna be able to have an opportunity to redo this road again for at least 20 years. And to simply be a repaving project is just a horrible missed opportunity for the community. So we are hoping that we can do better. And that's kind of where we are right now. That's been where most of our attention's been focused. I will also reiterate, as I do at every meeting, that if you see a traffic crash in a neighborhood or you, let me know about it. We have a Facebook page, Pleasant Streets. I'm on the Pleasant Ridge Facebook page regularly. I keep track of every single one of those, and every year I submit with pictures that I have. I'm a little detailed account to the city of everything that's going on. I would also encourage everybody who has a pedestrian incident, somebody will hit you when you're in the crosswalk. If you see something happening that's really illegal, report it through the 311 app, because every little data point helps. One of the issues we keep facing is that our community doesn't come up at the top of lists for getting things done. And that's because we don't have as many incidents, because they rely on data. So we need to get that data in there. We know how unsafe these streets can be. So that's all I have. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Are you working with Mark Jeffries?
Mark Jeffries knows me, yes.
Stay strong.
Yeah, we've been plugging away at this for years. We've made a number of improvements. There's so much more to do, but we're working on it. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you.
And Mark Jeffries, yes, thank you, Barb, so much. Mark Jeffries was kind enough, half a year ago, a little more than now at this point, to do a walk with us around Pleasant Ridge. And, he's well aware of what we're facing. A quick note on the funding that Barb alluded to. So, we were, at least when I was on the call, I was very vocal about us trying to be able to control and allocate some of the dollars that we have immediate access to, notably the TIF funds, to at least activate some of the safety, pedestrian safety. So this is like middle traffic islands. For instance, for those who saw the design on the southern part of Ridge, it would just be a traditional lane of traffic, turn lane of traffic. One of the biggest complaints that we got was people being concerned about traffic being used or using the middle lane as traffic. So we wanted to see if we can activate TIF funds to do concrete pedestrian islands to break that up. Lukewarm response. But some of the resources that were made available to us to say, hey, don't use TIF funds, go for these grants. But these grants then, you needed to dance with them with the Ohio Department of Transportation and the City Department of Transportation and actually have the city do the formal request to the state. While we would love to save our TIF funds for whatever reason, we want to make sure that these dollars get out the door for active planning. So thank you for at least having to take a step back right now. Because maybe having a crappy road is the best safety thing we can have right now. But this is going to be unfortunately and frustratingly an ongoing saga, it seems like, until March. We'll see. A couple other things. There was conversation about asking the city to designate the space between Woodford and Schubert as a school zone for TCP. So that way, better activation as far as reduction of speed and also increased fines and hopefully police presence during school times can happen within that stretch of Woodford up into where TC buildings near St. Peter's ends north of our main intersection. So we're trying to figure out what that would look like to get the city to designate the whole stretch a school zone, because at this point it is now, let alone with activity as well. So that'd be a nice win-win for both of those schools and the business district. Okay, next committee is beautification. We're still soliciting any interest for those who want to lead or partake, but thankfully the old guard, have you seen our lights in the business district now? They're up and they're beautiful. And so our main pagoda, rotunda, whatever thing is dolled up. No one has laid claim to it. Anyone, you can do anything you want to it. I don't do anything you want to it, but we were trying to figure out before I move on to parks, Jennifer, I just read on the corner of your calendar, is it December to Remember? No, it's not December 21st, so no, not worth remembering. It's one of my favorite songs. Thank you. It was Eric? He does that? Okay, well, he also leads our parks committee, and that's the next one. So I guess it's fitting. If you haven't met Eric, he's at the life. Are you watching, Eric? I don't know, but he's a good dude. Actually, there are a couple major conversation that has unfolded is that we've had a couple of concerning interactions with off-leash dogs within our parks and spaces, and so I think we are now trying to have potentially a page or some sort of list made available to those who have been either bitten or attacked or have their dogs been bitten. My wife has been bitten and our dog has been bitten by off-leash dogs. We've had a problem. This is, in French Park, which is technically Amberley and also Amberley Green, so that's not our jurisdiction, but we know a lot of our residents go to those places. And so better knowing how to equip people who have been on the bitten side of those things. We know that sometimes dogs get out, and that's one story, but we've seen a lot more voluntary off-leash dogs. So I'm not saying it here, but if you walk your dog, please keep on leash. But we want to make sure that if something unfortunate happens, we can alleviate that. Another thing that Eric is part of, and it's not necessarily part of our committee, but if anybody has been in French Park lately, they've actually done quite a bit of honeysuckle clearing. If you've gone on many of the trails, there's almost 2 or so dozen yards in each way has been cleared, the story has been cleared. So we have a lot of Pleasant Ridge residents that are on the Friends of French Park, which is essentially each park in the city has like an advisory community council in their own respective. And actually they just did a beautiful like quasi documentary it's on YouTube. You can literally type in Friends of the French Park on YouTube, and it's a beautiful like 5-6 minute video about French Park and what's been going on there. So it was a delight. It actually was very well produced. So anyway, it was like neat. We have that. That's a thing. Go to the park. That's good. Ridge Day is as dormant as it is cold outside, so nothing happening there. Communications has been chugging along. Kelly and Avery are sick, so I'm just going to speak quickly on their behalf. But we are settling into a routine of having weekly recaps, or just a quick weekly blast of what's going on, a monthly recap of these meetings, and then every quarter, one of our emails is going to be dedicated to a quarterly issue, which went out 2 weeks ago at this point, something like that. And so it's all that our website host allocates us as far as emails, and so that's all we're going to do. Right now, we are in talks with a local youth media production school for taking on an intern, and hopefully that will be bolstering some of our visibility as far as marketing and our Instagram account, if you haven't seen it. But also, I do want to note that we did get reached out to by the Kennedy Heights Community Council, as their communications team has unfortunately had to bow out. And so they reached out to us because of our new young and energetic whippersnappers that are communicating above and beyond expectations. So we're going to see what we can do to support them. Our duo is not, they're at capacity, but we want to see how we can help our neighbors to the northeast with their work. Okay. Gateways. Do we have gateway reps? Barb shakes her head. She shakes her head. Chris, no. And then Orchard is vacant. Anybody live in Orchard? Anybody want to step? Okay. Never mind. Our other school, Pleasant Ridge Montessori, LSDMC, not in attendance. I do not see community happens here. I did have a gentleman approach me by the name of Kyle about a potential resources committee. So, for instance, the vote that we took on tonight for the NCCIP from the city, we literally learned about that talking about money for a completely different purpose. Like that is exactly the reason why we want to have a resources committee that's helping to compile resources that we know that we can tap into, because who knows what other dollars that we don't know of while we're chasing other dollars. Like, so not to say that our sole purpose is to chase dollars, but it is those funds that are helping to activate new projects or hopefully enhance these projects that we're trying to make sure meets the needs of our community. So if anybody has a tactical skill for development, grants, fundraising, any of that, we will happily exploit your knowledge for the betterment of all of our neighbors. Please do step up, and we are also welcoming any initiatives for a potential youth committee as well. This is focused primarily on high school, if not middle school students that we want to see improved life. I mean, for instance, articulating a potential development such as an arcade and, small youth, but, I try to take my kids to the little back patio of Nine Giant and that lasts about 7 minutes. So
Wow, that's impressive.
and trust me, that's when we're doing good, right?
We're at 2 minutes.
Right? So, and we don't want to schlep our kids all the way down to Oakley Greens, which becomes like a madhouse. So we want to see if there's something walkable here. We just don't have that commercial. But we want, what are the current lived experiences of our local youth to be have a voice and articulate what they want their experiences to be like living in the neighborhood as well. Okay, so that is, do you have any committee reports?
Just a quick comment on that point. Speaking to some of the nativity parents, they have kids that are at these schools, and there's actually a 14-year-old that's trying to form a committee of other 14-year-olds to focus on doing something in the community.
Okay.
So I can get that name and pass it to you.
Please, because the
From
vice
the Wells family, I don't know, Tony Wells is the father, I don't know the name of the child, so I'm going to take some note of that.
Tony Wells, okay. No, we actually had kind of serendipitously a couple months ago, Vice Mayor Kearney reached out to ask if we had any type of youth collective organizing anything. And I was like, we've been talking about it, but no, we don't. And I know that Coffee Exchange gets overrun when the schools get let out. So, anything that we can do to try to help structure and even promote some of the programs that are happening here as safe, constructive spaces for our youth to go. Because I sometimes feel bad for teenagers in Pleasant Ridge. It's a great place for little ones, great place to raise a family, great place to age. I mean, it's a sorry state to be a teenager in some ways, but Pleasant Ridge is the way in which it's commercially developed on its own has not been too kind to that particular market. And then Coffee Exchange has been bearing the brunt of all of that. So, okay. With that, I do open it up for public 2-minute comments. Anyone want to take the mic for public comments? Going once, going twice. Okay. All right. I do want to just announce Winterfest is this Friday up at the Kennedy Heights Arts Center. That is a collaboration. We actually haven't done much about it, but our name is on the label. We'll take whatever we can get. But basically, we're trying to promote that so that our residents know that that is a fun family event taking place again at the Kennedy Heights Arts Center this Friday. Please do not forget about December 14th for the shop hop and then the following luminaria. Please come up, Jesse, to purchase any kits.
Take your money tonight.
Purchase another one.
Andrew, when should we expect them?
When should they expect?
They'll be delivered to your house next week.
Ooh, cool.
Jeff's gonna deliver it right to your
The other
door,
Jeff.
so you don't have to go
Not this
anywhere.
Jeff.
Not
The
that
other
Jeff, Jeff Cerrone, who's leaving this for us.
We have Jeff's, we have Barb's, we have Denise's. This is, okay, we're good. And then I'm trying to think. All right, so we have other events for the library. Thank you again. The rec center. I think we're good. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn the final meeting of 2024? Barb? Oh, wait, yes. Reading and approval of prior. Thank you for keeping.
That's why you're here.
That's why, that is why. Is there a motion to approve November 2024's meeting minutes? All right, there I do it. All right, is that, I saw, all right, Denise had the, all right, Barbie on the second?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, last month's meeting minutes are approved. Is there a motion to adjourn the final meeting of 2024? Barb makes the motion and Denise smiles.
I wanted to
Okay,
that.
right, just
catching
let them
on the
have
trend
that, all right. Denise seconds. All in favor of adjourning? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. That is a wrap on 2024. Thank you all. See you in February.
Happy holidays.
Happy
I
holidays.
love your idea.
Oh, thanks. I love your idea.
Oh,
All right, let's do it. All right, what's your name? I'm John. Hi, John. Good to see you. Nice to meet you. Have I seen you here before?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been here.
Oh, so good.
How's it going? Good, how are you? I'm ready.
Right.
Ready.
Yeah.
Hi, Brad.
Let me get your info first.